The Rothschilds are the wealthiest family in the world according to most people, and are the center for a lot of conspiracy theories. That's not a surprise though, as their wealth was so huge that they were lending money to all the states in Europe. But are they really the secretive leaders of the world, controlling everything from banks to politics? Today, we'll cover the true history of the Rothschild family. The Rothschild are one of the most well-known families around the world, who inspired conspiracy theories as early as the 18th century. Numerous anti-Semitic cliches from that time period are attributable to their enormous riches. The idea that a small elite group controls the world and all of its crucial events is at the heart of the Rothschild conspiracy theory. Even when that mysterious organization is unmasked as a non-Jewish organization, such as the Freemasons or the Illuminati, it's sometimes asserted that a Jewish cabal is behind them, and that the Rothschilds are the ones controlling them all. According to conspiracy theories, the Rothschilds have the power to dominate the world by stirring up rivalries and even orchestrating wars to push their own objectives. They are also said to have the power to control governments, international banking, and financial organizations. The Rothschilds have been accused of everything from starting wars for personal gain to funding the Holocaust and assassinating U.S. presidents. They are frequently linked to theories about the Illuminati, the New World Order, as well as other dark money organizations that are allegedly controlling world governments. We're not here to delve into these theories, but to uncover what can be known about the Rothschilds. And according to what seems to be true, the Rothschilds are actually just a big family of extremely wealthy people who want to avoid the curiosity of the general public and prefer to live their opulent lifestyles in solitude. They weren't always surrounded by wealth, though. By the 10th century, Christianity had taken control of most of Europe. Being a non-Christian at that time was extremely undesirable because political power was inevitably linked to religion. The Jews were dispersed across Europe, and many of them settled in the Holy Roman Empire because they had no native state to return to. Much like the rest of Europe, the Holy Roman Empire wasn't fond of hosting the Jews. They were compelled to dwell in specific neighborhoods, or ghettos, in numerous cities, with the Rothschilds finding home in Frankfurt. Houses were then identified by symbols rather than numbers. A red shield, a Rothschild in German, was hanging above the door of their house, hence their newfound family name. The Rothschilds worked in finance, like the majority of Jewish families at the period. Christianity outlawed interest-bearing loans in medieval Europe, which gave the Jews control of an otherwise lucrative industry. Generations handed down knowledge of money lending, and by extension, anything related to finance. And the Rothschilds were also no different. They were experts in currency exchange and the dealing of rare coins. Mayer Rothschild was the finest of them all. In 1763, he took over the family business, and the richest aristocrats in the Holy Roman Empire came to admire his vast coin collection. Wilhelm, the Crown Prince of Hesse, was one of them. In 1769, Mayer Rothschild was hired by the Crown Prince himself to manage his kingdom's finances as the court Jew. Even though nowadays such a position would be extremely offensive, at the time it was one of the highest honors a Jew could receive in Catholic-dominated Europe. Every affluent aristocrat had a court Jew who was in charge of looking after their finances. The Bible forbids making money by lending money. They had to maintain their God-obeying persona or risk losing respect, but also their lands. Like the Rothschilds, many Jews saw this as an opportunity to amass enormous wealth. Because of this, the local nobility outsourced their finances to the Jews in exchange for protection money and sometimes even actual noble titles. Mayer was responsible for overseeing the taxes being collected and keeping the money safe, but that became extremely hard once Napoleon invaded Hesse. Wilhelm was at the risk of losing all of his money, but Mayer was prepared for Napoleon. He dispatched Nathan Rothschild, one of his 5 sons, to London in 1798 to launch a currency business just like his father's. With this base established, Mayer found it simple to transfer Wilhelm's wealth to London and keep it safe. The other 4 sons built additional banks in Paris, Naples, and Vienna following the Napoleonic Wars. They mostly assisted aristocracy during their financial difficulties. However, in times of war, or when entire countries were on the edge of bankruptcy, they provided loans to the nations in exchange for generous interest rates. This was the time that the family rose to great financial power across Europe. It turned out that the Rothschild family funded and benefited from every war fought in Europe during the 19th century, as they were able to collect interest rates on lending money to multiple sides. Mayer passed away in 1812, putting his son Nathan in charge of Wilhelm's wealth and the Rothschild legacy. He remained in London while his eldest brother took over the original Frankfurt business, with the other brothers controlling branches across Europe. The brothers used a coordinated approach in spite of their separation. They would lend money to governments and the nobility. In effect, the International Monetary Fund now performs the same service that the 5 Rothschild banking houses did back then. They made huge profits by stabilizing important currencies and lending money to governments. However, in the beginning of the 20th century, the Rothschilds started developing problems. In 1901, the German side of the family went extinct, and World War I wrecked the remaining 3 banks. The worst event was the rise of the Nazi Party, though, and the Anschluss in 1937. This meant that the family's Austrian wealth was stolen by the Nazis. The majority of them managed to flee with their cash, but one was stopped and ultimately freed only after paying an extra $21 million as ransom. This was the largest sum of ransom paid in history at the time. The Austrian Rothschilds were effectively bankrupted. The same thing happened in France after the Germans were able to occupy the country. Only the British side of the family survived without any losses. All of the other Rothschilds fled to the United States. There are currently as many tales about the enormous Rothschild riches as there are stars in the sky. According to some estimations, the family is worth around $500 trillion. However, given that the world's capital is estimated to be between $1 and $2 quadrillion, it's not only difficult to believe, but also pretty much impossible. One family controlling half of the world's money is absolutely crazy. The majority of reports place their worth between $500 billion and $1 trillion US dollars, though, which is a bit more reasonable. The lifestyle of the modern-day Rothschild family is cloaked in secrecy, though. Although the Rothschilds' banks remain the main source of their wealth, they have diversified throughout the years into other industries, such as mining, transportation, real estate, art, and stocks. They hold a modest stake in the Suez Canal, and according to legends, they own 30% of all significant banks globally. The Rothschilds don't usually waste their cash on luxuries with little long-term potential. Most of their purchases are made with the intention of gradually increasing their financial position. They're one of the largest contributors to art museums worldwide and have a sizable art collection. As Hitler personally visited the Rothschild properties to choose his favorite pieces, some 3,500 items of art were confiscated. The majority of the artwork was returned after the war, but some pieces have never been located. For instance, among many other treasures, they gave the British Museum the $40,000 Lycurgus cup from the 4th century during the Nazi occupation of France. The Rothschilds are probably the biggest gold owners in the world. They don't simply have the precious metal, but have shares in gold mines as well, and gold bars, tons and tons of them. The Rothschild family also owns a sizable amount of gold globally. They own tons of gold bars in addition to the precious metal itself, shares in gold mines and other assets. Besides this, the Rothschild family owns one of the largest real estate portfolios in the world, including palaces, estates, chateaus, and villas from Israel to the United States. Any royal family would be envious of their possessions. But of course, they do spend some money on luxuries as well. Nate Rothschild, for instance, spent almost $100 million on a super yacht. The Planet 9, as the yacht is called, can host 16 guests and the crew. He's the proud owner of a super expensive private jet as well, estimated to be worth more than $60 million. Nate Rothschild is still one of the most frugal Rothschilds alive today, and his purchases are nowhere near in comparison to those of his great-granduncle Walter Rothschild. Walter had a passion for zoology, so he spent insane amounts on exotic animals, like a giant tortoise, numerous birds, and even zebras. He owned the largest specimen collection ever created by a single person.
So there you have it. This is the history of the Rothschilds, the richest family in the world, who according to historians have faded hugely in power since the times they founded all of Europe through their banks. They probably don't run the world from behind the shadows, but there's no denying that they're almost incomprehensibly rich.